All right, let's go back to politics. Marco Rubio had a great night last night. Many people are saying it was probably one of his best so far. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights from last night.
I'm not interested in being politically correct. I'm interested in being correct. So I am in favor of a clean environment. My children live in South Florida. My family's being raised here. If you go anywhere in the world, you're going to see American men and women serving us in uniform that are Muslims. And they love America. I would love the relationship between Cuba and the United States to change, but it will require Cuba to change, at least its government. For over 2 centuries, America has been an exceptional nation. And now the time has come for this generation to do what it must do to keep it that way. I know that a lot of people find appeal in the things Donald says because he says what people wish they could say. The problem is presidents can't just say anything they want.
And that's where we'd like to welcome in today's roundtable. Joining us today eternally, Emily Compagno and Ellis Henican, radio and television commentator. Thank you both for joining us.
Hey, Miranda.
Before we get to the big winners and losers of the debate, let's talk about these recent developments today. Dr. Ben Carson is now endorsing Donald Trump. Emily, do you think that this will help him?
I think it will help him to an extent, especially with the evangelical community, but I don't think it will help him as much as another candidate would. And I think the issue here is that Trump has been dropping hints that he will play a large role in his potential cabinet and maybe even as part of the ticket. So I think that's the issue that we have to look at is what role is Dr. Carson going to play for Trump that Trump keeps mentioning? And that has the capacity to bring in a lot of moderate and basic conservatives that at this point are more towards Cruz.
Yeah, he talked about health and his ideas about education. Alice, do you think this will benefit Trump's campaign?
I would call it a small deal, right? I mean, no one came out of this campaign thinking that this guy is remotely qualified to hold high public office. He seems like a nice fellow. He's clearly achieved some things in his life, but I don't really know anyone who would want to put him in charge of anything real big or important.
Not even health?
Well, maybe his own health.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, he seemed to have no understanding. He couldn't articulate what he would do with Medicare, with Medicaid. He was sure he hated Obamacare, but he didn't have much of an alternative. No, this was not a real slam bang success for Dr. Carson, I don't think.
All right, let's move on and talk about Rubio. This came out today, telling his supporters to back John Kasich, not him, in Ohio, to try and stop Donald Trump. Emily, is this a wise strategy?
It surprised me, and here's why. Because, you know, for those 72 hours when he had a lot of venom towards Trump, he came out afterwards acknowledging that that was kind of a bad move. So it seems like he's carrying that further in terms of the Never Trump campaign and anyone but him. And it seems that it would behoove him more to just focus on his own campaign, his own strategy. So that surprised me because it seems like it is not a wise move.
It does seem very odd, doesn't it, Ellis?
It's certainly odd. I mean, I don't remember another case, although, listen, none of this stuff is likely to work, right? And at least it has some logic to it, right? Let each candidate go where he's strongest and let the others open up the road for that person. But listen, these guys have too big an ego.
But if you're wanting to exude
John Kasich
confidence,
doesn't seem to be returning the favor.
But if you're wanting to exude confidence, this certainly doesn't seem like the way to do it. Say, don't vote for me, vote for him.
What is it about Marco Rubio's performance in the last weeks that we'd say exudes competence and confidence? I mean, the guy's been in free fall. He's likely to lose Florida, and when he loses Florida, he's got nowhere to go.
Do you agree, Emily?
No, I think free fall is a strong word. I think that his campaign has been a bit circuitous, and he is course-correcting himself. But he as a person and he as a candidate, to me, was always quite strong, quite competent, and quite confident in exactly what he was saying. It seems that he got embattled and embroiled in the details. You know, he rolled up his his sleeves with Trump and duked it out in the gutter when he should have maintained the same commitment to policy he always has. Because frankly, no one has compared with him in terms of the depth and detail of policy that he has always stood resolutely by.
All right, we also want to talk about the National Review because the National Review is now backing Ted Cruz. Ellis, do you think that this will give him a boost heading into the primary next week?
Yeah, I mean, there's some readership at the National Review. I mean, it's a conservative magazine. Cruz is clearly the most reliably conservative candidate in the race. I would expect them to. They couldn't endorse Donald Trump at this point, and the other two don't have much of a prayer. So I think it was their best choice.
Emily?
I believe it's an important endorsement. I think Mark Levin is a more important endorsement, and I think even more important than those endorsements was Cruz's performance last night. I think he came out shining actually last night in terms of his policy and his commitment to poking holes in Trump's performance, but while maintaining steadfast to his own. So I thought he personally really shined, and that will help him more than this particular endorsement will.
Yeah, we were talking about Rubio, but a lot of people were saying what you're saying, Emily, and that this was one of Cruz's best performance by far. Ellis, do you think he came across strong and presidential last night?
Yeah, I thought they were all fine. I mean, the problem is that Donald is so dominant right now that unless you somehow go in and turn over the furniture or someone has some huge bang, it just keeps things going where they were going. And I think Trump was much better spoken than he's been in some earlier events, and the other three were all plenty fine. It was a much more intelligent debate than we've been getting. But I don't see that it really changes the momentum, and the momentum is all Donald all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you, Emily. I mean, we've had, 12 debates so far. You know, you have Donald Trump saying today that, no more, we don't need any more. Was there anything that happened last night that you think will help any of the candidates who are looking to get ahead of Donald Trump going into Tuesday's primary?
No, I think it was more illustrative on the other side. That the momentum Trump has, as Ellis just noted, now that's even furthered. Because what we saw from him last night was an actual discussion on policy. And what we noted was, okay, here's someone who has that same tone and strength that people have been appreciating about him, but mixed with the policy that we want to hear. So what we're starting to realize is this is someone who will surround himself with an appropriate cabinet, but then act as we appreciate about him or as people appreciate about him in that position. So we're looking for a commander-in-chief.
Right.
And that's what we saw last night. And then in terms of anything, it's the Kasich's performance that I think was detrimental, because without everyone else digging in the dirt, he doesn't look so shiny. So to me, he seems to fade away when the other candidates are strong and just calmly discussing things. He is special, and we
gotta run. Emily Compagno, Ellis Henican, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate all your insight as always. Still much more to come. You're watching Newsmax Now.